Don't search for us.
Those are the last words written in a journal found in an abandoned house sealed up with dirt in a mysterious, empty Minecraft world. This world was discovered by the YouTube user SickMP3, who claims it appeared without explanation one day in the menu screen of their Minecraft client. The channel has uploaded a total of 5 videos investigating it. As we watch that footage, it gradually becomes clear that something terrible happened to the players who used to live there, and whatever was responsible is still lingering somewhere inside. The first video is titled simply, Strange World in Minecraft. It opens with the player standing on a hill overlooking a river. It's night, and in the distance we can see a cluster of wooden buildings lit up by yellow torchlight. The hill is eerily empty. None of the monsters that usually spawn during the night are present. It seems like they've played at least a little before they started filming. We can see a few pieces of random early game junk cluttering their hotbar. Torches, raw pork slices, a furnace, a half-broken stone axe. They equip the axe and swat the air a few times, maybe trying to gesture in the direction of the buildings for the viewer. The player climbs down the hill and swims across the river, toward the buildings. As they approach the closest one, a square house raised off the ground by stilts made of logs, we can see a wandering trader standing nearby. This is the first and only time a villager appears in any of these videos. The trader abruptly turns around and walks away before the player can interact with them, tugging its llama's leash behind it. The house has a small wooden staircase leading to the door. It's been blocked off with haphazardly placed dirt blocks, as if someone were trying to seal it up in a hurry. In fact, we can see a floating dirt block item lying nearby, indicating someone or something broke one of these blocks just a few minutes before the player arrived. The dirt crunching sound cue begins about half a second before the tool actually makes contact. The audio seems to be slightly out of sync for the duration of this video. Inside the house is a tiny room with a chest, crafting table, a furnace, and a white bed. A painting of a creeper is hung on the wall. The chest contains a totem of undying, a compass, a harness for writing ghasts, and a book. The book ends up being a journal authored by someone named Nora, who writes about her experience playing here with 2 friends, David and Now, at some point in the past. Most of the entries are unremarkable. Nora seems new to Minecraft. She says this house is the first one she's ever built. She complains that David called it ugly. Now's house is blown up by a creeper. David and Nora find a dehydrated ghast in the nether and bring it back home to raise it. This is presumably why the white ghast harness was in Nora's chest. David dies at some point and his items despawn, which Nora finds very funny. The journal abruptly ends with one line. Don't search for us. Unlike every other page, Nora doesn't sign this one. The player opens their inventory to take the book out of their hotbar. When they do, we get a chance to see their skin. It's a pale green zombie girl. She's wearing blue shorts and a white shirt ripped at the navel to reveal an exposed, bloody rib cage. She looks like she's crying. When the player gets back outside, it's raining. The next house has an animal pen next to it. A cow and a pig are grazing inside, and outside a white horse whinnies. As the player approaches the door, a small crater on the left side comes into view. A chunk of the front wall is missing. This must be Now's house. Apparently they never bothered to repair the section a creeper blew up. Inside they find a crafting table and an empty barrel. The doors of the last house are again sealed up with dirt. Inside is another bed and a chest with another book, this one attributed to author unknown. It's titled, Do Not Open. This is David's journal. There's only one entry. He writes that he feels like something is watching them. He says he won't tell Nora or Now about this feeling because he didn't want to creep them out. The player slowly walks out of David's house and then suddenly begins placing the dirt blocks that were sealing it back up, covering the door again. As they do, the top of one of the dirt blocks briefly glitches, turning transparent. They run back to Nora's house, jumping and sprinting erratically, and seal that door up as well before re-equipping their axe and running back towards the river. The next video is something that they left behind. The description reads, "I keep seeing traces and I'm so confused." It's daytime. The player has their axe out in a forest. The moody variant of a cow can be heard bellowing in the distance. They walk over fallen leaves, following a trail of torches. As they climb a hill, a chime followed by a rumbling sound plays. The Minecraft cave ambience algorithm occasionally plays chimes and other creepy sounds when the player spends enough time near caves or dark areas, but I at least don't recognize this one. Anyway, it's a lot less likely on the surface in the daylight. To me, the rumbling sounds more like some of the thunder.ogg files that play during rainstorms. But there's no storm happening in-game either. The sky is completely clear. At the top of the hill, a village is visible in the distance. They stare at it and jump up and down a few times, but don't go closer. Instead, they climb down, walking in the other direction. A bat flies by on the left, which is unusual. Bats are only meant to spawn in the dark. It's possible it emerged from a cave we didn't see. The torch trail goes cold at the edge of a cliff, overlooking a deep ravine. One of the nearby trees is floating. The bottom two logs are gone, and there's a dirt patch beneath them. Someone or something else must have been here very recently and cut it. The player decides to cut the rest of the tree themselves. They don't immediately use the wood for anything. Maybe it just bothered them. A trio of tiny red crosses arranged in a triangle are barely visible on the ravine floor. Someone put down redstone dust. From this far up, they look kind of like bloodstains. The player spends a minute or so peering into the ravine before something seems to agitate them, and they abruptly turn around and take off running in the other direction. They run towards the village we saw in the distance earlier. They kill a sheep and collect a block of wool. Not enough for a bed. They look up to the sky to see the sun is about to set. The third video's title has a word missing. Things that I shouldn't found. The description of this video reads, "Feel like they are not joking about all of this. I'm kinda scared." The player stands outside a big house, much larger than any of the houses seen up to this point. Their hotbar looks mostly the same as in the last video, but one new addition stands out. They have a stack of 64 wooden fences. Inside, the house is empty like all the other buildings have been. This house isn't sealed up, so the player could freely walk in. They enter a room with a sign next to the door that says Nora's. The walls of this room have been filled with signs, with short, frantic-sounding messages written on them. Please make it stop. Everything hurts. It's my fault. Please let us out. Please forgive us. Towards the ceiling are a lot of torches placed seemingly randomly. Way more than are needed to light up a room this small. Inside a chest is another book titled Help in capital letters. The author, apparently Nora, writes that everything feels so real to her suddenly. She says she can feel the ground under her feet and the pain in her hand from punching things. Unlike her first journal, this one doesn't read like someone playing a video game. It reads like someone who feels somehow connected to the world she's in some physical way. She doesn't explain when she started feeling this way. On the next page, she reports matter-of-factly that Now is dead. She doesn't say how they died or why. Her next entry is just the phrase, "This is not real," repeated over and over again until the words devolve into a jumble of random letters. The final page of the book contains a plea from Nora to be released. She says she misses her family. She says she doesn't want to die here. It's not clear whether Nora is just pleading to someone, anyone, to hear her, or if she's aware that something out there, maybe the same thing David could feel watching them, is listening. The player explores David's room next. They shut the door behind them as they enter, as if they're nervous something will walk in on them. They find another book titled, I'm Sorry. David explains he and Nora can't get out of here and that he doesn't want to let it take control of them. He mentions that weeks have passed and the pair are running out of food. He claims Nora's mental state is deteriorating from the stress and she's becoming increasingly angry with him. He wants her to come hunt for something to eat with him, but worries he won't be able to convince her. He says he's afraid of losing anyone else and adds that Nora is like a sister to him. In his final entry, David mentions the two of them had a fight. He doesn't go into details. He concludes cryptically by saying, I don't want to push her too hard. I didn't want to. He doesn't explain what he feels guilty about doing. There's a barrel in David's room with a stone spear inside. It has full durability, indicating it's never been used. The narrator walks out of the abandoned house and the video ends. The next video in the sequence is Helping. The description reads, I decided to solve the mysteries and help them. The player is again standing in a field at night. The stack of 64 fences on their hotbar is gone. In the distance, a tall stone castle on a hill is visible against a cloudy night sky. The player looks up at the moon, which is almost full. The moon was visible briefly in the first video, too. At that time, it was a crescent moon, so at least a few in-game days had passed. They climb the hill and approach the entrance. There's a 2-block high tower of dirt with a circle of torches placed around it next to the door. This building's architecture is a little different from the houses we saw before. It looks more like a small fort than a home. Inside, a bed is placed on a stone perch accessible by a ladder. A barrel next to it contains another stone spear, also never used. On the roof of the tower, there's a chest with another book by an unknown author. It's titled 27-2010. The description of the channel is written Morse code that translates to the same date. That's either February 7th, 2010 or July 2nd, 2010, depending on whether we use the American date convention or not. The one journal entry in this book isn't signed by anyone, so we don't know who wrote it. However, judging by the fact that there's only one bed in the tower, it seems like only one survivor was left at the time it was written. Whether that was Nora or David is unclear. Either way, they write that something is pushing them, starving them, torturing them. If it is Nora writing, she's no longer warning whoever finds the journals not to search for them. This author begs anyone reading this book to help them or find them and end their suffering. The player closes the book and looks down from the top of the tower to the ground. From above, the group of torches outside is easier to see for what it is. The torches are arranged in a plus sign or cross pattern around the dirt pillar, a makeshift grave. The video abruptly cuts to morning with the player again in a field, walking in the direction of the setting sun. They have 5 less torches in their hotbar. It continues to cut every few seconds to show them traveling through different landscapes. It's not clear where they're going. The final video's title and description are presented in Morse code, like the channel description. The first translates to, "My pain is finally over." Second to, "Thank you for helping me. I love you. From now on, I will always be there for you." The player's long off-camera journey brings them to the edge of another ravine. It's almost night outside. They climb down into the dark and find another trail of torches, which leads to a cobblestone wall with a hole in it that's been sealed by dirt. They break the dirt with their axe and enter a cramped stone room. They replace the dirt behind them, closing themselves inside. In the room is a single chest surrounded by torches. Inside is a final book by an unknown author. Its title is just an ellipsis. This book has only one sentence written in it. 3 sacrifices were demanded to save a single soul. An eerie chime plays. The sound of dirt being broken can be heard as something digs through the barrier behind the player. They turn and the screen goes black. There's a sick crunching sound and the video ends. There are a few big questions left hanging over the sick MP3 videos. What happened to Nora and her friends in this world? Who was the final survivor who built the stone tower? What was the purpose of the 3 sacrifices the last book describes, and what was the single soul that was set free? I'll give some of my thoughts. It seems clear that there was some other entity besides the 3 human players present on this server early on. I believe that's what David said he felt watching him. Whether this thing followed one of the players here or was part of the world before they arrived isn't certain. I think this entity in some way grafted these players' minds or bodies to the game, trapping them inside it. Nora describes in detail really feeling the sensations that her character should be feeling. Pain, exhaustion, hunger. With that in mind, David's desperation to convince Nora to hunt makes sense. These two would have spent weeks living with only the food they could kill or grow themselves. Based on the fact neither of the spears the player finds were ever used, it seems like David's hunt never ended up happening. Both Nora and David plead in their journals to be let out. Nora says she misses her family, so whatever she's perceiving while she's attached to the game, she can't properly communicate with the people around her in real life. I think that David is the one who survives the longest and makes it to the stone tower. By Nora's last journal entry, she's so scared she can barely write in complete sentences. The entry written by the person in the tower is desperate, but more cogent and put together. Also, the barrel in the tower contains a spear. Like I said, David is the one who wanted to hunt. If it is David who died last, then the dirt grave outside might be where he buried Nora. But what's the role of the player, the person filming these videos in the story? There isn't really enough given to say definitively, but I think we get one clue from their skin, which we can see in the first video. It's a crying zombie girl. I think the player is Nora, having returned as something else after her death. That's why she has access to this world at all, even if she can't remember her role in it. It's why she abruptly, almost instinctively runs away from these buildings after she explores them. There's even a totem of undying present in the chest in her house all the way back in the first video, as if to suggest she won't stay dead. I think the way the rooms and the videos have been sealed also allude to this. The house and the ritual room have been covered up with dirt, like a body buried under a grave. Nora seals them back up after investigating because some part of her remembers she shouldn't have dug them up in the first place. The ominous warning in her journal, "Don't search for us," is a warning as much for herself as anyone else. So what's happening at the end of the last video, when Nora enters the sealed stone chamber and something follows her and seems to kill her? Interestingly, I don't think this is her reliving her own death. Instead, I think she's experiencing the moment that David died. Whether that death took place in this chamber or not isn't clear. Maybe he found his way here too, following the breadcrumbs the entity left for him. Or maybe he died somewhere else without ever learning why he was being hunted in the first place. It doesn't really matter. He did die, and his sacrifice was the last one required to bring another soul into the world. Together, the coded messages in the last video's title and description read, "My pain is finally over. Thank you for helping me. I love you. From now on, I will always be there for you." I think the speaker is the soul that was restored by the ritual, and the intended audience is not the viewer, but Nora and her friends. Whether mockingly or sincerely, it's thanking them for providing the currency that needed to be spent to bring its soul back from wherever it was before. While doing research, I couldn't find an example of a real-life culture that practiced a ritual involving sacrificing exactly 3 people to summon or free something supernatural. But I did come across something along the same lines. The threefold death is a form of ritual execution in Celtic mythology. A single person is said to have died a threefold death when 3 separate fatal blows kill them almost simultaneously. For example, the ancient Irish king Diarmid MacCurville was said to have died from wounds inflicted by stabbing him, burning him, and drowning him, in that order. The act of killing someone in this way was thought to have great spiritual power. Some believed it offered favor to 3 separate gods at once, making it a very frugal way to do human sacrifice. The well-preserved corpses of victims of threefold death dating as far back as 500 BC have been discovered and continue to be discovered from time to time in the bogs of Ireland and the UK. The ritual sacrifice that takes place in Sick MP3 is not exactly a threefold death. 3 people die once, not 1 thrice. But the broad idea is similar. Together, 3 sacrifices, 3 different acts of murder, are capable of connecting our world to something else. Except in this case, there's no particular ceremony, at least not that we get to see. Just killing. And the god on the other end doesn't seem benevolent. There are a few other details which I wasn't as sure about. Maybe you'll make a connection I didn't. The player equips the stone axe many times across these videos without really having a reason to. In the first video, they use it to dig up the dirt covering the houses. An axe isn't any faster than bare fists at doing that. They also equip it at the end while running away from the abandoned house. Maybe this is just an instinct Nora has, a kind of physical tick she does to feel like she's protected. Maybe it means something more. We also never see what Nora does with the stack of 64 fences. They're present in the third video, completely gone by the start of the fourth. Similarly, we never get a definite answer about what broke the dirt block that's lying on the stairs as the player approaches Nora's house, or what cut the tree next to the ravine. It's possible the freed entity is still nearby. It's possible it's something else. The date 27-2010 recurs twice, once in Morse code in the channel description, and again as the plain text title of the last entry written by the survivor in the tower. The fact that it's presented using the same cipher as the messages makes me think it has something to do with the entity. I think this is a date in the day, month, year format. July 2nd, 2010. That would be consistent with Nora's writing. She uses the British spelling of the word traveling in her first journal. That's the day that the Minecraft update codenamed Secret Friday 3, or Alpha v1.0.1, was released. That was the first Minecraft build to explicitly be labeled an alpha version, and also the update that introduced redstone to the game. We see redstone in these videos exactly once. 3 splotches of dust are visible at the bottom of the ravine in the video Something Left Behind. 3 sacrifices. Maybe that update is all the data is referencing, but I think it may mean more. One possibility is that July 2nd, 2010 is the day David, or one of the other players, died. But that doesn't seem very likely. This server contains Minecraft updates like tameable ghasts and spears that would only be added to the game nearly 15 years later. Alternatively, it's possible that July 7, 2010 is a death date, just not one for a player. Instead, it's the death date of the entity itself, the soul that was brought back by the ritual. If so, it seems strange that it would be the title of the last survivor's journal. Maybe the entity modified the journal to include that date after the fact, knowing Nora or someone else would follow the trail and find the fort after they died. Maybe it somehow communicated this date to them. The journal mentions it pushing and torturing the last survivor, so we know it continued to interact with them. This is a very new series, so it's possible we'll get more insight into these questions as time goes on. The channel is linked in the description if you'd like to check it out and watch the videos yourself. I'm definitely interested to see where it goes next. Thanks for watching.